Hello, everyone. How's it going? I can't believe it. We're at episode 12 of Voice First Design with My Cactus. My name is Justin Jeffers, and I'm evangelist on Amazon. I teach you how to build Alexa skills. And I'm on the line today with two people who are wearing dinosaur sweaters. Uh, Show them your sweaters. There you go. Nice. All right.
Hi, everybody.
Hey everyone.
Yeah, so I got.
Uh, I'm a senior voice. My name is Alison. I'm a senior voice designer at Amazon Alexa, and I help partners build great third-party skills like this one, like this wonderful game we've been making for the past 2 months now, 12 streams. So we're gonna wrap things up today.
Yeah, and hey everyone, I'm Joe Moyo. I'm a solutions architect at Amazon. And on this skill, I primarily worked on the web GUI side of things, in addition to a little bit of the skill backend and infrastructure. And yeah, I can't believe we're like almost done this stream series here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We're on the last final episode. It's pretty crazy. We've been working on this project for quite some time, and so it's yeah, I still can't believe it. It's like, wow, here we are. We're on episode 12. And yes, I worked on the main skill section of the main skill interaction. So all of the mechanisms to calculate the status and everything that gets passed to Joe to render the output on the screen with the web API. So cool. All right, let's start.
We could address maybe the elephant in the room, or maybe the big beach in the room. So you might have noticed we've had yet another change of scenery. So for our final episode today, we're doing something fun because I found a fun location this morning. So we're on the beach in California, and we've got the water behind me. I'll show you later when we say goodbye. But let's get this thing going.
All right.
Did you bring any of your cactuses with you, Allison?
No, I didn't, but I passed a huge, beautiful garden center on the way into this cute little town, and on my way out, I think that's gonna happen. I'll have some company when I leave today.
Nice.
Cacti will probably be purchased, so I only have to haul them another 5,000 miles for the rest of the trip, but that's okay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's not bad.
We'll figure it out.
All right, I'm gonna try going full screen here, and we'll see if it messes up the view.
I'm also now up and running on my side, Justin. If you want to share my screen,
Oh, okay.
we're back to functional.
Cool.
If that's easier for
Yeah.
you, but either way.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Sorry, folks. We had a few technical difficulties today.
All right,
A few is an understatement, though, honestly.
it's ready for you, Allison. I've got it up. So if you share your screen.
Awesome. So, yep, I've got it. I should be. Oh, am I not sharing anymore because Joe took control of?
Yeah, we had a couple technical difficulties this morning with our screen shares. So
Yeah, and everybody is broke at once. All right.
cool.
I think we're good now. I think we've
Yes.
resolved this.
So what are we talking about today on our very last stream?
Everything, literally
Everything.
everything. Well, we'll kind of summarize what we've been through. I would encourage everybody to go back and watch previous episodes, but we will go ahead and go through kind of everything, and then, well, mostly everything. We'll explain what we still have left to do. We've got some known issues to wrap up, but we're gonna play with the skill. Through doing so, I would ask you all to give input on what you would say to the skill, and we can talk about adding different utterances. We already talked a little bit about that, but then we can talk about adding a skill description, skill icon. Let's wrap it. Let's talk about the last loose ends of code, and then let's just celebrate, because it's been a very long year. Justin started this February? I think you started streaming or something
It
like
was
that.
April.
So we've been
Yes, April
April.
17th.
Yeah, we started talking about it in like
Yes.
February, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah,
back when we were
we deserve to
back when we were
celebrate.
still in the office. That's how long ago we started thinking about this, because we were
Right. In the before
yes,
time.
we were on the 27th floor, and we were in that little like area where they've got tables and chairs, and you can like look out and see the city.
Justin, spoilers. Spoilers. We
Oh,
have
no.
fun facts later on
Oh,
in the
shoot.
stream.
Yeah.
Okay,
Didn't
all
you
right.
read the deck?
I'm sorry.
No, we'll share all of that later. But
Okay.
let's wrap up.
Sorry.
No, I'm gonna let you share that story though,
No.
because you started it beautifully. Didn't mean to interrupt that moment.
No. We'll share it later. I don't want to spoil. Let's go.
So yeah, and again, if you're just joining, you want to go to our GitHub repository, alexa.design/my-cactus. You'll get the storyboards, which means you got the full script to see what we're doing here and how we designed it. All of those templates I've got in there for you to use your own storyboards, and then we've got our code in there as well in case you want to follow along or have already been following along at home. So it's taken a while to get here. As you saw, we're on episode 12. That's 6 weeks just summarizing for you what we've been working on. That's just not the actual work itself. It was a few months of work itself, part-time. We all have other things that we've been doing throughout the year too.
Right.
So what did we do? So we sat down and decided what to build, and there is a backstory to that we will share with you later. But we wanted to build something, of course, our purpose as a group, us, Justin and I, and then Joe came in later, is to create something that, of course, you would learn from as our audience, but also, we want a skill that's going to we want an example of the skill that's going to bring in lots and lots of people day after day. We want a good example of that to share with you. And we wanted to build something that people would love, and people love simulators, and they come back to simulators, and it has built-in retention mechanisms simulators. So that's a great place to start. And it's a great place to build, your first, second, or third skill, depending on how complicated of a simulator you're willing to make. We went pretty simple here with the cactus, but you can get pretty fancy, or you could do like a pet rock. We didn't think customers would necessarily love Pet Rock though, but we decided on some goals,
Yes.
high retention, days of use.
Plus,
And then
also
we determined
there also is a skill where you raise a pet rock, so it's not entirely.
There's a pet rock.
Yes, so it's not entirely original.
Right. Maybe you all, if you wanted to start simple, do like a fish. A fish would be really good. Because you also have temperature control involved in that, and just feeding instead of watering. You don't have to water a fish, you could feed it. That could work. But anyway, we set some goals, of course, educating our audience on something we believe is a very sticky skill. And if you were to steal this code and rewrite it for your own, like raise a fish, raise a shrub, I don't know, sea lion, since I'm by the ocean, barnacle. If you want to do that, you can do it easily, and you'd be inspired to do so. But we also, in our scope, we had to be real with ourselves. This is our part-time work that we are working on this skill. So we had to decide how hard the problems were that we were going to solve, what the level of effort for each feature is, and we made kind of a V1. And then ideally, at this point, you would create a set of statements. The player can water the cactus. The player can earn badges for returning to the skill, and so on and so forth. And that's before we even open up our storyboards and design. So, any other thoughts on scope?
No.
Oh, look at that! Look at that nice little slide typo here.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Little copy paste error there. That's okay. That's just part of our schedule. Not sure how that got there.
I would,
but
we're only on episode 12. If this were episode 13, I would just blame it on the fact that it's the 13th episode. But but it is.
It's that Friday the 13th karma catching up with us,
right?
Because we had a good stream Friday the 13th.
We did.
It was bound to catch up with us someday.
And there is a Friday the 13th represented on that copy paste. So we'll just chalk it up to that.
Yeah, bad luck. So now we're gonna bust out our storyboards, which I'll show you in just a second. You're gonna decide how the player uses your skill. Looking back at those, a player can do this, that, and the other. Well, how are they gonna do that? What's the best way to do that? What's the fastest, easiest, most fun way to do that? And then we're gonna talk about what is the player gonna say to our skill? What are they gonna expect to say to the skill? Of course, they're gonna expect to say water the cactus to a cactus where you're to a skill where you're raising a cactus. No brainers like that. And then when we're storyboarding, we always want to start with what the player says first, what their context is, and then the contextually relevant response that we want to give back. And we want to do that until we think we've run out of all possible utterances and context. We think we have a response for all of those. And then, of course, I'll talk about your GUI in a minute. Your visuals up on screen here, but of course, you're going to do that as well with your storyboards. So now that you've storyboarded, you're going to do that for a while. As you can see, here's the full script for the skill. You also have this in that GitHub repository, just minus the GUI, because that's not the one that we ended up using, as Joe will talk about in a moment with Web API for Games. So you're going to do that until you think you're done, but you only think you're done because then you have to test it. So first of all, we're just going to use those storyboards, those quote unquote paper prototype. We're going to try them with our friends. We're going to do kind of like an improv session where you'll go ahead and play the skill, and whoever's sitting in front of you, we did this activity earlier in the season. Where somebody uninformed is going to talk to the skill, and I'm going to make sure I have a storyboard, and I string together a session with them from all the storyboards in front of me. If that goes smoothly, then you're probably ready to write some code. If it doesn't, go back, either make more storyboards, add utterances, add context until you think you're done, and then test it again. Then you can take that and then make a code-free prototype with any number of tools that are out there. It would be impossible for me to list them all, and they're all evolving very quickly. So you can make a prototype. In a previous episode, I showed how to make a prototype with Adobe XD. You can use others. We made an on-device prototype without writing a line of code. So again, when you're doing these tests, if you're just testing something, just an idea that you have very early in design and development, it's not necessary that you make a polished prototype. Like, go low fidelity. If you're really early, the fidelity of your prototype should just match the fidelity of your thinking, and it's okay to be rough until you actually do make decisions.
Yeah, and I would even say that more strongly. Like, don't make a high fidelity prototype. Don't spend the time polishing everything, right? Don't spend all that time it takes to get good SSML and good art assets and such, right? You want to make sure that like the core is fun and useful and does what the design is intending.
Right. Yeah, because the point of it all is
right. You might be doing rewrites after you get some feedback.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, and the point of it all is not to make a perfect product all in one go. It's to iterate on your design, and part of that iteration is to build something real scrappy, get that feedback, and go, oh hey, yeah, we need to change this. And part of building a design is you make assumptions about things. You decide on a direction that you're going to take, and then you play test it and you go, ooh, we made the wrong assumptions, we made the wrong decisions here, we need to pull back on this. Or you get an idea for a new feature, and so you don't want to take the time to make a real high fidelity demo, because you're most likely going to be changing it at some point, or it's very rare that you get everything 100% correct on the first try.
Right, rarely. And you might even find too that some features are less compelling than you thought, or maybe less important than you thought, and others might come about, like you mentioned, Justin. It's a time to not lock yourself in at all. Go as low risk as you can when you're still experimenting. And then that work will pay off later when you launch with a skill that you spent a lot of time refining and is going to get you to a certain level at least. And then we'll talk about after launch in a little bit. But we're still writing code now at this point, and actually this is an old slide, and that's okay. But we talked about earlier in the season, like we went into a code deep dive where we set up our backend before we even started translating the storyboards to design. Joe made a nice little chart that I didn't include here, my bad, but maybe you can summarize, Joe.
No worries.
How
It's
set up.
Yeah, my fault. I should have put it in here when I was iterating
No
on
worries.
this. Yeah, like when in our case, we actually went to set up the core of the game backend first. So we didn't build out the first time user experience yet. We were just working with making sure like the state was properly represented in voice, since we are an authoritative backend experience. And we kind of added the GUI on top of that in a way that made sense. So here, we started just by setting up like the core framework of updating the cactus information and providing status, and then slowly built on top of that with some of the extra features like badges and the GUI.
Right. And in the early beginnings of when I started working on this part of the skill, like I actually took Alison's design and I went, okay, I'm going to build this particular sequence. And then while I was building that sequence, it's like, okay, what are the things I'm going to need? Oh, okay, I need an intent, to launch the skill. Okay, I need an intent to open the blinds. I need an intent to, and as soon as I built those things out, then it's like, okay, now we need to go for this other scenario. Oh, hey, they could, say yes, they could give us a location when they already have a cactus. So that's when I identified, ooh, hey, we missed this state. So like part of that setting up our backend was also looking at that design. And I think, yes, that leads into the next slide here. Translate
I want to make
storyboards
one
to
more.
code. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Justin. I want to say one more thing about the backend.
Yes.
So you actually started building on Alexa hosted.
Yes, I did.
And that's not where we ended in the
That's
beginning.
very
So
true.
our architecture wasn't set in stone either, right? So just like we were iterating on the design, we were iterating on the engineering side as well.
Right.
Alexa hosted didn't provide to us like all the abilities we needed to build a web API skill,
Right.
but it did give us everything necessary for Justin to get started on the core experience. So that was a really nice way to approach development, I think, because you could get up and going immediately, and then we just transitioned everything over later when we had to.
Right, and that goes to that low fidelity versus high fidelity demo. It was also not just from a scrappy real quick and dirty demo, but also like the environment that we chose. It's like, okay, sure, we could spend some time like architecting everything, but it's like I wanted to make some progress on building up the skill and getting these interactions and translating the design into code. And so I didn't want to focus on the architecture at that point. So it's like we were able to use Alexa hosted to get started, and then we were easily able to, with a minimal amount of effort, migrate out of it into a more robust setup when we needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And was there like a technical reason or limitation we made that change?
So we switched to the bigger architecture with like multiple data stores and cloud fronts, mainly because we needed a place to serve web assets. So we actually switched from having one node application, which modeled the backend, to having two node applications, where we added on a Webpack node app in order to be able to build out the JavaScript for the front end.
I see. Awesome. I learned something today too. Still learning. It's episode 12. So yeah, Justin brought up such a great point that in doing the code, actually front end or skill side or back end, we learned a lot about things we might have missed or not accounted for in the design, and that's That happens sometimes. I would even dare say it happens often, just because human conversation and the context in which we use, well, human conversation is quite complex, and then the contexts in which we use Alexa are expanding every day and getting more and more complicated, and we expect more and more out of the technology because it keeps getting better and better. Well, that makes things more and more complex. So don't beat yourself up for missing something, but this is why we vet and test, and everybody works on the design, and everybody is responsible for the design quality at the end of the day, because everybody affects it in some way. And Justin found so many ways to find the design through doing this.
And also why the dev console gives you all kinds of nice metrics once you do go live, to kind of help you manage that at scale, right?
Yes, let's chat more about that actually in a second. And then
put a pin in that.
Yeah. These are all great. So once we think we have a pretty final script, the code is pretty refined. After I've done a lot of testing, the last piece of code you will probably write, if you are the designer as well, is your SSML, which is your markup that makes Alexa and other poly voices on the service you speak differently, use different kinds of voices, different inflections in their voice. You'll find in the skill there's a lot of poetry, there's a lot of SSML involved in that. If you're interested in that, on my Twitch channel, I have an archive of when I went live earlier in the year and did some SSML live on the skill. So if you're interested in how that came together, check it out. Otherwise, just check it out. Check out the code in the skill to see what was done there as well. So once you think you're pretty well wrapped up and there aren't a lot of major design changes left, go ahead and start writing your SSML. Again, don't write it early if you're not completely done. You'll just have to rewrite it later.
Hey, Allison, is this where I would start adding, mixed audio, like using things like APL for audio as well?
Yes, that's actually a really nice segue into multimodal. But yes, this is where you want to start choosing your sound effects, mixing sound, and then deciding what technology is going to best serve you to use to serve that sound, or if you need to mix things. That's where you want to make those explorations as well. So how did that come together for you guys with all of the sounds? How did you put that all together?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll let Justin talk about this since he went and built that out.
Yeah, it's my iPad just flipped, and now it'll come back. I should have turned off the audio orientation on my iPad, but I didn't. Yeah, it'll come back. So the audio, there's some audio effects in the skill, and there's SSML in the skill. How did we decide that the audio all comes together? What drove that? Because you could use APLA for this as well.
Yeah, so at the time that we were building this, APL for audio hadn't been released yet, and so I knew about it just because of my interaction with the Alexa conversations at the time, and so I knew and had experienced it with that, but we didn't want to make it a dependency because obviously it's not something that was available to us at that time. So instead, we opted to build out the strings manually in code. We have a couple modules that help like wrap certain things together. So in the future, what I'd like to do is actually move towards converting those things over to APL for audio and make it so that we're able to abstract out one more layer of like separation between our presentation being, in this case, it would be the APL for audio would be our presentation, and then the data, which is the strings. Because right now we have some utilities that go through and like inject sound effects into a string. We have a few that wrap like some things in the Cactus voice, because you have a tag that you have to wrap around to get the poly voice, and we have an attribute that we pass to it that specifies which voice it's going to be. And so I'd like to re-architect it in such a way that it uses APL for audio, and then we'll have less mixing of presentation and business logic in the code. I want to separate those concerns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
then when it comes to Web API for games, we actually have background sound now, right, Joe?
yes, it's actually one of the known issues I missed, but there is code to play background sound in the repo. Um, and yeah, the Web API for games lets us get access to web audio, which allows all kinds of different things that we can do with dynamic audio, like playing multi-turn audio, like this background sound. Um, and if we wanted to take it a step further, we could even combine it with APL for audio or just regular text to speech, and then replay that with web audio rather than the normal way that the audio is played, which would then let us dynamically change things with JavaScript. Dynamically change things like the volume, or stop and play, and etc. So lots of options when you use Web API for games with audio.
Yep. So now that we're thinking about that, if you haven't done so already at this point in the process, you're going to think about your GUI. What's going to show on your screen? And again, the same with audio. You're going to consider what you're trying to achieve here and whether APL or Web API for games is the most appropriate thing to use. Back in previous episodes, we had a pretty lengthy discussion about why you would choose one over the other, and gotchas with both. So if you're curious about that and have a lot of questions about that, I'm sure you do, go ahead and look at those episodes. There are a couple of GUI episodes actually. So then we want to determine, kind of what is the core expectation, first of all, with showing something on screen. Well, in our case, obviously it's the cactus. I mean, who wants to raise something that you can't see? And while this can be a delightful game as a headless experience, you really want to see your cactus to be all that emotionally invested in it. I mean, I tried to give it personality and character, and part of the reasons I went with so much poetry, such as when you get a badge or something like that, is because you might not have that nice gratification happening on screen that you got a reward. You won't see it. And it's not all that compelling to just say, you got a badge, you earned this badge. You could do that, but it's nice to celebrate a little bit. So that's part of the reason there's so much poetry in the skill. So consider your headless experience, but also be really smart about the GUI. You don't have to put everything on screen that you're going to be saying all the time. You want to create, just like you did with your storyboards, creating relevant voice responses for every possible scenario. You want to make sure you at least have a relevant GUI response for the same scenarios. And it's not that you'll have a different GUI response every turn, but make sure you have something appropriate to put on screen, whatever is being said. So you'll see actually in my storyboards from earlier, there are a lot of repeat screens because I think you should just persist that screen while Alexa continues talking on this other step. And then you want to prioritize the information that you're going to put on the screen. You don't have to show everything at once. As you can see with the My Cactus screens, big priority is the cactus. Of course, you want to know its name. And then secondary priority, of course, is seeing what its health is like. And that's it. That's all. And so we also taught you how to create some really clean, high contrast layouts that everybody can see very clearly. Anybody with any vision impairment is going to have an easier time looking at them. We gave you some tips for doing that, making these viewable on the distance at which they were intended for each device. We talked about that, gave you some guidelines there. And then we wanted to do what we could to leverage all of the features of eventually Web API for games. So you want to talk about that briefly, Joe, about how the web API portion came together really quick?
Yeah, sure. So, Justin and I actually worked largely independently here, and I did a lot of iteration on the web API side. First, I didn't do touch the Alexa side at all. I spent a lot of time trying to get everything to lay out correctly, respond appropriately to different screens, etc., just with my local browser and the dev tools available there. And then, once that was mostly working, then I started hooking it up to the back end, adding some handlers on the back end to respond to the web API requests that are generated from the JavaScript library when you want to send messages, and vice versa, being able to send the data payload from the back end to the front end. And Justin and I actually synchronized around a block, which is used in our session attributes. And so then the front end was made to kind of react to that. So that's how I was able to do a lot of testing of things before even hooking it up to Alexa. And then in terms of like debugging strategies, lots of different ones I used. One of them you'll see today in the skill, and it is a known issue, but we write debug logs out to the screen. That won't be in the main production skill, but it is in the beta. But it lets me see the payload that's coming from the back end to make sure that things are appropriately represented in the front end. I can log errors to the screen as well. And then
we could just draw a thought bubble around that and make it part of the GUI. That would be cute.
I don't know if like the end customer would understand, but you are the designer, so I can.
That's just the Cactus language. They think in debug code.
The other really nice tool for building out the GUI, once I did have everything, somewhat working, using a Fire TV attached to my computer with ADB allowed me to actually attach my local debugger in Chrome browser to the running skill on a real Fire TV, which was very useful for debugging. So definitely a great path if you're working with the web API for games. You can see console logs, you can see the network tab, you can start optimizing the experience. So yeah, lots of it was a nice way to kind of decouple the work that Justin was doing and I was doing.
Yeah, and your work even informed my work, because we were able to make some updates and changes to the data that we were passing back and forth, and we also had to make a couple changes here and there depending upon which device the skill was being invoked from. And yes.
Yeah, that's actually, I guess, one of those things that, a design change that sort of came up from testing, where we were, I was doing a lot of testing on Fire TV, and I really didn't like the overlay of where it would say press the button. It obscured the cactus. You couldn't see the cactus anymore, right? This makes a wonderful ambient display. No reason not to kind of keep that. So we actually had to change how we were dealing with the reprompts for Fire TV to avoid that. Still to be determined if certification likes it or not.
Yes, it's a good question. And to that point,
speaking of, the stage that we're in right now actually is we're getting all our stuff together to submit to certification. We're still testing. We're still QA testing. I still have to QA test it. So when you're getting ready for certification, the best thing you can do for yourself, a couple of things. Number one, QA test the heck out of it, because certification is not QA testing. They're checking a lot of other things. So really, it's your job to thoroughly go through the skill and make sure you have the right responses and things like that. But you'll certification will find some bugs too. That happens, but that's really your responsibility. And common certification failures can often be prevented with just more thorough QA testing. And then have other people to test it, people who don't know anything about what you're working on. This will also help you greatly. And then the second thing you can do to make certification go a lot smoother is get all your stuff together beforehand and know what you need to submit and know what the limitations are. For example, your skill description, write that ahead of time, refine it, know what the character limits are, know what you can and can't put in the skill description, kind of audit yourself as best you can with the information that's out there, all of the certification checklists and things like that. And then you want to make sure you own the IP, any licensing you need to get that together, because you'll fail certification on that as well. Get that. So yeah, two big things you could do to make certification a lot easier that you can do ahead of time.
Saves everyone lots of time the more you test.
Yes.
Right. And then submit to certification. And as Justin would say, submit early and submit often. And then, of course, make the updates for the feedback. Make sure you understand them before you resubmit, though. Make sure you do something to address everything, because otherwise, you'll just fail again. And then
I was going to say, I love it. We work together so often that we already know what we're all going to say. So I could just sit back and let you.
I'll just speak for you. Oh, and then when you expect a couple of rounds of certification at least. I've never submitted anything that's passed on the first try. You always find something. No shame. It happens frequently. And the more complicated your skill, the more likely it's going to be to happen. But celebrate when you pass, because that day will come if you keep working. And then
Absolutely.
you're not done. Well, hopefully you're not done. Hopefully not.
Right.
Hopefully you've launched the skill that you're really excited about and you want to see how it's going, and you want to improve it and add to it, and hopefully you're getting, maybe you want to add ISP and get some return on investment on all of this hard work that you did.
Right.
So,
well, software is never done until it's no longer supported. So,
right. And how sad to abandon a cactus right after launch. All of these cacti we put into the world, why would we abandon them? Although they can handle a bit of neglect, but that's not so with our skill. So we want to monitor what's going on after launch. Hopefully you've put some analytics in there to track how people are using your skill, your CX. You're going to have different questions than we are, but our main concern is people are coming back every day, earning badges and experiencing everything that the skill has to offer, with the exception of maybe death. I don't hope you experience that state of the skill. I hope your cactus lasts a long time. But hopefully we see that after launch. We see very high monthly active usage after a couple of months.
And if you haven't built your own metrics, have no fear. You can see some of this in the developer console, like retention, for instance, and the kinds of things people are saying that aren't mapping to anything, or the ways that customers are flowing through your skill from the intent level. So all very, very useful dashboards to help refine and address some of these points.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. That's such a helpful tool, especially if you've never done analytics before. Start there for sure. And then we want to look at the customer feedback. We want to look at any bugs that are coming up. Hopefully we fix bugs right away. Customer feedback you can kind of collect for a while and prioritize as needed. Maybe discuss, what you want to do to add features. Maybe research adding some ISP if you haven't already. We already have tons of plans if we were to do in-skill purchasing, what we would do. And you want to work on building and retaining your user base. If you have if you have a few Twitter followers, share that with them. Promote your skill. Do what you can to promote your skill. Once you have a lot of reviews, that's when your skill can become more discoverable, could become a top skill. So maintain the skill after and then refine it after. I know a lot of our other skill developers have had really good results monitoring their skill after launch and making really quick improvements after the fact. So I'm not sure if we're ready to do the beta test or not. What do you think, Justin and Joe? And if not, how can somebody stay tuned to get on the beta test?
Yeah, great question. So as of right now, if you want to join the beta test, like I'm fine to open it up.
Yes,
but
same.
We have a couple of slides here of some known issues. But in general, we would love your feedback. So if you want to join our beta test, please shoot me a message. I just wrote into chat. And send me your email. We're going to be using the beta tool that's provided to all skill developers in the console to manage our beta test. And we have a email which you can respond to for any feedback that you have. So would definitely love to get your thoughts. Just before, I just want to point out some of the problems we currently know about. And if you have something that's new, please let us know. We'd love to fix it. So for GUI problems, the cactus does not show on the first playthrough. Pretty big problem for a skill about the cactus. So as you get the cactus, for some reason that I haven't yet determined, doesn't show. But this is top priority for me to fix. We have a couple of little background flashes when it changes. That may or may not actually appear in the live version of the skill. It might be an artifact of the way that that I am not caching in dev mode. So one thing we didn't talk about was we are caching all these assets. Many of these assets don't change, but when it comes to developing, I don't want to cache things. Right? I want to have the most up-to-date information. So a little unclear exactly if that is a bug in the live version. But the other thing is also a pretty big visual bug. Blinds always show closed at first, even when they're open. So something else that we need to fix
So
with the GUI.
at first, meaning every time you open the skill?
Yes.
And then if you were to open and close them, eventually they would adjust?
Yes, the visual will adjust. The backend knows what's right though. So we built this.
Too funny.
So the audio response is always going to be correct here. It's in charge of the. At least I think that this is just a GUI problem. I suppose I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that I messed this up. So I'll take credit for it. And then we're still printing console logs to the screen, and we will probably continue to do that throughout the beta. We have a couple of other issues, though, that I've noticed in my QA testing of it. So at least I have trouble saying to water the cactus. And just in general, we have some utterance conflicts. And it might be due to that or not. But as you're all playing, we would love to know what you've said and what unexpected action has happened from that.
So are we getting poor ASR recognition on Water the Cactus? Is that what you mean by hard to say? Like it's hard for Alexa to hear it, or it's hard for you to enunciate?
Unclear.
Just like inconvenient
Good question.
to say. Okay.
I personally have trouble, invoking the water cactus intent. Now, it could be an ASR problem. It could be a problem with the way we've done our interaction model, because we might have cactus and a couple of unrelated intents, and so when you say water the cactus or water my cactus, those are potential problems. We also don't have like things like the name slot in there. So if you want to say like my current cactus now, we're all going to meet them soon. But my current cactus is Clementine. So if I were to say water Clementine, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. So we've got some tweaks like that we can make to the utterances. But like, we all speak differently, right? So if you have something that you're saying that's just not working out for whatever reason, let us know. We'll try and fix it.
This is why we test.
Exactly. And the utterance conflicts are a problem because certification won't like that.
Right.
Right.
Cool.
All right. So we're getting ready to wrap up here. So we can. Why don't we play with the skill
Yes.
for a minute, Joe? And then we can kind of get to the fun stuff as we have time. I know we're coming up on time, so I want to make sure we get to the skill. So let's fire that up. And anybody in the audience, if you would like to ask the skill something, we can go ahead and demonstrate that, and we'll see what happens.
All right, Joe. Oh.
And then I'm gonna drop a email list in here for a second too. So pricklypetepets@amazon.com for feedback, and you can also email that with the email account that you would like to be added to the beta.
And Joe, you're showing a logo at the moment, so you'll need to do what you need to do to get. There we go.
Go and fix that.
Sweet.
All right, so we've got this Fire TV. Let's open up the My Cactus. Open My Cactus.
Clementine is feeling just okay. You can open the blinds. You can open or close the blinds. Water the cactus. Check its
So
status.
we've got our nice
or check your
dancing
badges.
cactus.
What would you like to do?
Clementine. And I think the blinds are actually truly open right now, but let's try and water Clementine. Water my cactus. Did it work? I actually can't hear you. But...
It just died. I think you
Here
overwatered
lies
it.
Clementine. It's life you took into your hands.
Good.
Agreeing
That's
to
what
meet
I was
your
trying to.
demand.
We want a new
Good.
cactus.
Enthusiastic. You were.
We
Though your
want to
intentions
demonstrate
were
the
sound.
new cactus
Today we learned that
experience.
some virtual cacti
Oh,
can
the
drown.
cactus live on
You
the street.
overwatered Clementine. They've died from
Yep.
drowning. Want to
It's
start
just
over
Just
with a
asked
new
if you want to start
cactus?
over.
Yes.
There we go.
Your shelf is empty, but don't despair. I'm here to
I feel like
pair
I've
you
played
with
this
the
so
right
many
cricket
times. I
player.
like know the pacing.
Water and light are what
The
it
poem
needs.
in the beginning.
I have
too.
it
Suck it up,
memorized.
and they'll reward your good deeds. To choose just the right cactus that needs your assistance,
Where would you visit?
tell me, if you could go anywhere in the world,
Yes,
where would you visit?
Seattle.
I found the perfect cactus
Oh,
for
it's
you.
Sherman Sharp.
Meet Sherman Sharp. They need water and sunlight to thrive.
Sherman
They're
Sharp.
just a sprout right now, but keep them happy and they'll grow a little each day. You can ask me to water your cactus, but not too much. Or you can ask me to open and close the blinds. Sherman Sharp,
Badges.
you haven't unlocked any
There we
badges
go.
yet. Keep playing and I'm sure you'll unlock something. What would you like to do?
Oh, we haven't earned any
No.
badges.
We have not, but
What if we water the cactus? Don't die.
Water the.
uh-oh.
But
Ah,
blinds are
see,
already
this is.
closed.
I
Sherman
struggle
Sharp
to say
is
it.
feeling indifferent.
Water my cactus.
There we go. I love it. The pail floats.
I feel like
So yeah, we've used the message sending API
open the
from
blinds.
the backend. So it's it's a new directive handle message, and that's how we synchronize those animations. So that what just happened there was I spoke to my nice little Fire TV remote control. That was transformed into the intent request, and then on our backend we said, "Hey, web app, go do this thing."
So if we
So-
exit the skill right now, it's going to give you a badge, right?
Oh, possibly. Let's see.
Because it should give you a new parent badge.
Open my cactus.
Sherman Sharp is feeling indifferent. You can open the blinds. You can open or
And now
close
we
the
actually see the
blinds.
cactus, so
Water
Right.
the
that's
cactus.
nice too.
Check its status. Check your badges.
Achievements.
Oh,
You haven't unlocked any badges
gotta figure
yet.
out why our new
Aw.
parent badge is missing.
What would you like to
Wah,
do?
wah. She's just mad at us for killing Clementine, I think is the case.
So yeah, this is
Ah.
the skill that you all can play with today. And yeah, do let us know. I think I saw a couple of emails
Nice.
trickling in.
Awesome.
So I will add you to those before the stream is
Sweet.
over.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's. Since we have a few minutes left, we could take a little trip down memory lane. Justin, I would love for you to continue your story about how this
Yeah.
all came about. I've got a few other bullets on the slide up, but yeah, what went on here?
Joe switching back from the demo fixed his camera, so you're no longer in monochrome. All right, so.
Oh, look at that! I'm still unsure.
Yeah, I
when
don't
that
know.
happens.
Okay, so yes, so getting back to that story, this was way back in February of 2020, right? So we were still working in the office, and there's this in the building where we work on the 27th floor. There's this nice little like loungy area, and it's got the beautiful view of the cityscape of Seattle. And so Alison and I were up there, trying to come up with an idea for what we should work on, and we wanted to do something that taught people how to storyboard, and we wanted to close that loop between we've done a lot of talking about storyboards, and people would always ask us, well, how do you actually take this storyboard and create a skill with it? And so we were like, yeah, we should collaborate and do something. And we were thinking about like what type of skill that we should build, and we were thinking about a simulator, and we came up with a bunch of different ideas. I don't remember what some of the other ideas that we were, but what ended up like driving us to choose cacti was we were in this lounge, and there were just like the entire windowsill was just covered in cacti, and we're just like, wouldn't it be fun if you had to raise one? Like, you had to water it, you had to put it out in the sun, and then we're just like, all right, I think we decided what our theme is for the skill, and that's where it came from. And it just so happens that Alison has quite a massive collection of cacti. I didn't realize.
I have more cacti in my house than the cactus room at Amazon.
I didn't realize you were in the triple digits. That's crazy.
Oh. I hit triple digits, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I went out and on a whim, I kind of drove by a store and ended up getting 7 new ones. And that put me into triple digits. My house sitter, I had to review with her before I left. The look on her face when she came to see what she needed to take care of while I was on this trip was pretty funny. But yeah, the 3, and actually the one in Web API and then in APL, there's actually 3 different cacti that you could possibly get assigned. All of those illustrations are based on my actual cacti in my house. So all of those have a real life counterpart, which is why it's so horrifying. Clementine is now gone.
But no real cacti were
Right.
harmed in the making of this game.
No, a few did pass this year at my house, but not through the making of this game. That was just my fault. Anyway, another fun fact, as you know, if you've been here a couple of streams, all of Justin's code was written live on stream. Most of Joe's was written live, and then I even got in on the game and wrote like half of my SSML live quite a while ago.
Right.
So most of this you can still find it out there. So if there's something in the code that confuses you, or you're not sure how something's working, you run into problems, there are a lot of answers in all that hours worth of streaming.
And I also want to call out and thank those of you who are tuning in on our private channels as well. I know Kevin Evans is in the chat today. Trade Last is also. I haven't seen Oxygen Box on this morning, but those people tuned in to all the episodes on our personal streams. And Gold Zulu, I haven't seen him today, but Gold Zulu actually has named one of our cacti. So if you ever get Sharpie Sharp, that was Gold Zulu's contribution to the skill.
Right. And
thank you all for the.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm just getting a better camera view because it's much prettier than continuing to look at my dinosaur sweater.
Yes. That is a really
beautiful.
nice view.
There's Oxygen Box.
Thank you all for
It's been a pleasure, y'all.
Yes.
Oh, hey, thanks for hanging out with me on the trips.
Yep.
And for all the feedback along the way for our skill, technical design, everything.
Thank you all. It was it was great. A lot of fun.
Made with
Yes.
viewers like you.
Cool. Yep.
All
So we
right,
had- yeah.
let's get one last pun in here while let's see if my display will adjust. Again, alexa.design/my-cactus. If you want to try this for yourself at home, learn along with us. Thank you for sticking with us through all of this. I had to get one more pun in there. It's the last one I'm going to get for the year. So
All right.
thanks for joining,
Thank you all
y'all.
for joining. It's been a wonderful stream and a great series, and yeah, looking forward to the next.
Yeah.
Have
Thank you all.
a
And
wonderful holiday.
Yes,
happy holidays, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.